one phrase that stood out is they talk about having a rhythm and a routine, not a schedule. So I think that in order for women to be productive, we naturally want to be busy. So
okay, so today on Someone You Should Meet, I'm joined by Yeager Lee. Anna is the owner of Women in Tandem in Riverside. Hi, Anna.
Hello.
And you are our first Zoom guest.
Yes.
Yay! Desperate times and all. So
yes, we can do new things.
Yeah, absolutely. So my dining room table, my dining room is my new office, and you're working from, where are you working from today, Anna?
I am actually working from my workspace, so nobody else is here, and we are separated from the rest of the building, so I wouldn't come into contact with anybody coming into my space. So it's just me in my workspace.
Oh, how luxurious. Just to set the scene, my girls are upstairs with the dog and with some snacks to keep them going, so hopefully I can get a bit of peace and quiet, but I can't guarantee that, so who knows. But first of all, Anna, oh my gosh, so many of us have been thrown into this working from home gig, just like that, with no preparation. Like, how do we even start?
It's not easy. So I think the first thing, people, give yourself some grace. This is a regular routine, so it's okay, and don't expect it the first week. Don't even expect it the second week. And I think over the first even few months, it's going to look completely different than what you thought. So don't expect it to be perfect right away. Set yourself realistic expectations.
Okay, so for many people, this week is probably the first proper week. We've got the kids off school as well. My girls are at home. How essential is starting a routine? We'll start that again. How crucial is establishing a routine, Anna? So really early on.
So we've talked with a few homeschool women actually, and one phrase that stood out is they talk about having a rhythm and a routine, not a schedule. So I think that in order for women to be productive, we naturally want to be busy. So we'll start a load of laundry, we'll do the dishes, and now that we're at home, it's hard to not be distracted by that. So I think if you designate a time and a place as a default for when you're going to do your work and where you're going to do your work, that's the first step. That can change, but if you decide from 9 to 12, the kitchen table is where I'm working, I think women need to start with a default time and place of where they're going to work in their house.
You mentioned distractions, Anna. How important or how difficult is it to avoid them? Because I know, for example, this morning I've had the girls, I fed them, they had breakfast, but then within 10 minutes they're wanting a snack. I've got the dog barking. I'm looking at the dirty dishes in the sink. How do you avoid those distractions, particularly when you're a parent and you've got kids at home right now?
I think just as much as kids thrive on structure and some kind of routine, it's the same thing. Include them in part of it. So when I said don't expect a routine right away, figure out when their best times are to be on their own and what type of activity is it that they can be on their own. If it's, okay, this is drawing time and you can put them in the room next to you and that's when you pick when you're going to work, and it doesn't need to be a 3-hour chunk of time. One of my suggestions is to keep a pad of paper next to you when you first start working. Keep that for your default list. Oh, I need to do that. I need to do that. Don't get up and do the thing unless it's immediate. Put it on the list. Then,
so what sort of things do you want us to write down when you say make a list of what? What type of things?
Okay, so I need to make sure that I cancel those appointments that were scheduled for the month. Even though they're probably being canceled for us, I need to remember to do that. I need to remember to pay that credit card online. I need to remember to do that. If those things are coming up, but it's not the actual task that is the biggest priority, write it down on the list. I would then get 3 small Post-it notes. I actually have them with me. 3 small Post-it notes. At the beginning of the day, pick the 3 priorities. What are the 3 priorities? So it may not take a 3-hour session. It may be when I sit down for 30 minutes in my designated workspace, I'm going to do one of the Post-its because that's the priority. Although it may be easy to jump up and go change the laundry. If that's not on your Post-it, we are now living in Groundhog Day. It's always going to be laundry, always going to be dishes. Do your 3 Post-its first. Those are your priorities for what you think really needs to get done that day. Everything else, put it on the list. Tomorrow you start over with your next 3 priorities. What will naturally happen, some of those things on the list are going to take care of themselves. things will get canceled, something else will break, and that's no longer a priority. So keep a running tab so you don't feel overwhelmed.
Yeah, you mentioned feeling overwhelmed. It's really easy right now to just kind of feel panicked by everything that we're having to contend with. How do you stay in a productive and calm mindset when we've literally got the world going crazy around us?
And I think understanding that everybody's feeling the same way. So what we set for ourselves as expectations in a normal rhythm and work pace, that's not happening right now. So don't expect that of yourselves and other people. But what I would do is try and identify your 5 senses. And so when you designate where you're going to work, if you don't have a separate office, if you're using your kitchen table,
yeah,
the seat you're sitting in when you work is not the seat you're going to sit in when your family has dinner. So I designate that space so you feel like you're in work mode. I have a comfy sweater on my chair. When I am working, that's the only sweater I wear. I do not wear that over my PJs walking around the house. This is the work sweater. So I think designating what you're in your house, you can't change it, but is it a different chair that you sit in? And do something to identify all 5 senses, because that'll help you focus and not be distracted. For example, smell. Keep either a diffuser or a candle by you. We talk about when you're at a fair and you have cotton candy or popcorn and it reminds you of that fun time at the fair. What is a calming scent that you can associate with work mode? So that may be a different scent that you normally have in your house. I love eucalyptus in the diffuser. I love a good anthropology candle, but associate that scent with your workspace. Same thing, so you don't have to get up for snacks. Use that mug that your kids got you that you don't use, but that's your work mug. It's not your morning coffee mug. It's not your evening tea mug. It is your work mug, so you're not getting up for that. Get snacks, whether it's fruit or nuts. Have them at your workspace so you're not jumping up and down and then getting distracted by something that's in the kitchen. I also encourage people to have a tray of the things that they're commonly going to use. So your pens, your Post-its. So if you have to clean up the dining table really quick, but you're not done with your project, use that tray and carry it over to the other counter or take it to your bed if you need to. I don't really recommend working from your bed. If you have to, then you just take that tray of your work office items over to another space.
Okay, that's interesting. So the 5 senses, I've not even considered that before. But that, I would imagine, is very good. For example, in my situation, we're all in one room. So the girls are in their bedrooms now, but I do not have a designated office unless I go and work, on my bed.
Right.
So reclaiming that space sounds like that's the way to go if space is an issue in your house. Because we don't all have the luxury of having, a private office or whatever.
No, we don't. And even if the seat that you're sitting in is normally where you eat, that's where you sit at dinner time, maybe you sit in the seat opposite that table. And so you designate, like, this is my view when I'm working, not when engaging with my family, because you also don't want to stress yourself out. If your dining table is also your workspace, when you're eating, you're going to start thinking about the work you need to do. So really change your view. Or it can even be a folding table that you throw a tablecloth on that you put in front of a window. This is my new temporary workstation.
Okay, well, I need to take heed because I'm currently sat in the spot where I eat. So that's a no, slap on the wrist for me. So maybe I change to the chair opposite, but that's really helpful. Okay, good. So we're now, most of us are working from home. What if we are we're just not getting into a rhythm, we're being quite hard on ourselves? Are there apps, for example, that can help us? I mean, where do we go if we need just a little bit more assistance?
So I know Calm is an amazing app, CALM. Also on YouTube, if you put in 5-minute guided meditation, if that's a way for you to start your day, I'm sure everybody has heard, don't grab your phone right away when you wake up. But if you were to do a grounding meditation, almost all of them, and you sit feet flat on the ground, put your shoulders back. They walk you through a breathing exercise. If you have any kind of oil or scent, it's really good to do that extra, help you actually do deep breaths. That's an excellent way to get started and grounded. And we were talking about routine. Anytime you're about to work, if you did one of those 5-minute meditations to get you ready and calm to focus on work, that's a quick trigger. Now I'm ready. And you had mentioned distractions. So I also, with kids, as much as I tell them I'm going to work now, I will come back when I'm done. They know you're there. And so
yes, they do.
Just open this for me. Can you do this? And it just breaks the momentum. If you give a visual cue when mommy has these on and emergency, that please don't interrupt me. Or you can set the timer so they know you can't bother mommy until the timer's off unless it's an emergency. And sometimes this is just good, even if it's white noise or a playlist. So we created at Women in Tandem, we have some playlists on Spotify. One is like a pump you up kind of music, so you feel like the energy if you just need to get some quick tasks done. We also have some calm, mellow music for the background. So I think kind of picking you, and you can have those playing in the background as well.
Okay, I like the visual with the headphones. One that I use that I actually stole off one of my daughter's teachers is Mummy's office is now closed. Yes. My office is closed unless it's an emergency, you need to figure out whatever it is. So I use that one, but I like the visual with the headphones.
And I think it could even be a sign. So the site, I didn't mention the site, but surround yourself with something uplifting. So if family photos are distracting because it's, I should be doing this with my kids. I should be doing this. I hear them playing. I want to be part of the fun. Or I hear them fighting. I better go stop them. Pay attention to what you're looking at when you're working also. I have like a little fun boss lady. So if I put this on my computer, the kids know I'm working. I'm not looking up something, like I'm actually working. So it's another visual if I don't want the headphones to say, look, I am in work mode right now. And it's not to ignore them. It's so that they get the regular visual. Oh, okay. I'll come back later.
Okay, I like it. So for those of us who are working from home, who perhaps don't think it's necessary to get dressed, for example, in the morning, and we could maybe just work in our PJs, what would you advise?
I think every article that's coming out is still get dressed for the day. But I was an attorney for 10 years, and then I took a year where I was just home with my kids, and everybody gave me the same advice. Still get dressed in the morning. This is an odd time, and it's going to take a while. So what I would say, because you still are going to have those days, especially these rainy days, you still want to be in your PJs. If it means you stay in your PJs, but you change your shirt and just put lipstick on. Don't even do your whole face, but put lipstick on, or you designate one day as pajama day. So it's not, I kind of want to stay in my pajamas, or no, it can be Wednesdays. I look forward to Wednesdays because that's the day that I get to stay in my PJs.
Okay. Talk to me a little bit about your life before Women in Tandem and what kind of, resulted in you setting up that company.
I was a public defender, so I did criminal defense for 10 years. During that time, I had 3 kids, and I did have an office, but prepping for trials or workshops or presentations, I would still have to work late at night. That was really uncomfortable. I did not like working at home. So I had a designated space at home when I had to work. And then when I was home for a year, I still had the same distractions of something falling off a shelf. So I felt like, I'll reorganize the shelves. And I kept myself plenty busy with dishes, laundry, kids' things, but I did not feel productive. So that is when I created a lounge and workspace for women. There are plenty of other busy women. I knew if I wanted that kind of space for work, but didn't have to do any of the cleaning, and I could get all the resources to help me, that I think other women would respond to it as well.
And I've actually been in your workspace, and it's really comfortable. And that kind of ties into what we were discussing earlier about making your workspace at home comfortable, so you've got everything there. We're obviously talking in the main about women here. what about the men? What would your advice be to men who, you know, for the last however many years or most of their working life have been used to working, going out to work, working in an office, and now they're at home, you know, probably with a partner, possibly with kids too. Does this apply to them?
Oh, I think so, completely. And I think one of communicating with your spouse or partner and even having a family meeting. What are the expectations now that we're all home? Because, for example, my husband is now working from home. He had an office with 60 employees. So he was used to leaving for the day, not really being interrupted. And now at home, where he enjoys our home as well and will want to he loves to cook. So he'll want to make bread or do things, but he needs to sit down and do work. And the kids are so used to when he's home, yes, he may have to take a phone call, but they're not used to him full-time working from home. So I think having conversations up front, this time frame is when daddy's going to work, and he's been using the dining room table. And so we have a door to that room. So when that door, and it's glass so you can see in, when that door's shut, we can't bother daddy because he's working. So I think setting realistic expectations, and I think they need the same tips. Where their office supplies, where are they going to set up and designate the space? And are they okay that it could also be used for something else at a different time? The game table, puzzles, are they okay, or do they need a separate corner?
Okay, talk to me about balance. So we're discussing at the minute, kind of, you know, obviously figuring out the work day from home. What about balance? What about that me time? What about exercising? Like, how does balance figure into our new normal right now?
And I think it's extremely realistic for people to not expect a balance. This is hard. This is extremely hard. And I think for people to think, oh, I can tackle it and I can manage it right away. The sooner we think it's not going to be super balanced, then I think we're a little bit more comfortable with doing the best we can each day. I know all of the gyms have really turned to a virtual online platform. So what we've done is really talked with our kids about how we're going to incorporate things together. So now our exercise is riding bikes as a family at the morning time. So you incorporating with your kids. The me time is also extremely important to communicate with your partner or spouse, that it's not a competition of who's doing more, who's helping the kids more, who has to work more. We're not comparing the level of work or amount of work or quality time with the kids. I think this is what I need. I need half an hour in the middle of the day, or I need to not do the nighttime routine. My husband does the nighttime routine because if I lay down next to the kids or start reading, I will fall asleep. And then I lose my time for completing tasks that really need to get done when the kids aren't around. So that's kind of been a give and take. And it took a while because I felt like I was getting frustrated because I wanted to be there for my kids. But now we just have a different routine. I say goodnight downstairs, and then my husband takes them up and reads the story, and they go to sleep.
So how is that working for you then as a family? Be honest. Be honest.
We are very fortunate that we have help on our same block. My family lives a few houses down, so we've kind of quarantined our family. So far, the kids are doing amazingly well, so I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop next week when they realize this is kind of a long-term situation. The kids are having to adjust, so I don't feel like I'm yelling at them to do chores every day. So that's another thing, is setting my expectations. Because we had a rhythm for school. You had to do this before you left for school, and you had to do this when you got home from school. That's not happening anymore. And so there's kind of a grace period to not demand that right now, but they are picking which chores they're going to do over the course of the week instead of each day.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. I mean, for myself, it's this week, I think it's really hitting home that the girls are at home, you know, indefinitely. And it's difficult because you want to be doing your best by them, but then you've also got to continue your work. And you know, how hard are we, particularly as women, on ourselves, that we have to be the best mum? We're now having to be, you know, school teachers at home, and we still need to work. You know, why are we so hard on ourselves, do you think?
Because we want to do the best. I think it's set up. We are lucky in the generation we are that so many women did so many hard things before us that we feel like we owe it to them to do the most we can because they gave us that opportunity. But in the same way that I suggested the setting your 3 priorities, work priorities on a Post-it, I think we can do that on a weekly basis with our family. What do we want this week? Are we working just on my daughter Amelia? Are we working? The task we're working on is learning to ride your bike this week, and we're going to make it fun. So if you're done with it one day, we're done with it one day, but this is the task for the week. And I think their expectations of what the goal is for the week is more realistic. Or we're really going to focus on math this week. We can't be the teachers that they have at school. So I think being kind to ourselves and thinking what's the goal this week and setting it as a bigger picture instead of, okay, we're going to finish chapter 1 today and then we're going to do chapter 2. It's let's just read this book this week. Let's work on this math skill this week and let's look on this life skill this week. And I think if you talk about it as a family, then they feel like they're a part of it, and then you're not stressing yourself out every day that we didn't get to math today, or we didn't get to history today, or we didn't get to this subject today.
What are the benefits of working from home? Because we've discussed some of the issues and the obstacles, but what are the good things about being your own boss basically and working from home and structuring your own day?
I think you get to prioritize when and how you are spending your time. If you do not work from home and you have a traditional office that you have to go to, even if they're flexible, you still have some level of accountability of when you have to be there first thing in the morning. Mm-hmm. Mornings now, what I've even noticed in the first week is not setting the alarm. Our kids have gotten up on their own, got themselves dressed. It's just not the usual hour earlier that they normally have to do. So I think being able to work from home gives you that flexibility to, when your wake up time is, actually spend time with your kids, that it's not rush, and you can prioritize where and when you're going to be somewhere without having to be accountable to somebody else or explain it to somebody else.
Do you also think that this is an opportunity as parents and as mothers in particular for us to show our kids, that we can do it all? We can, we're setting a good work ethic, basically, that we've got all of this, crazy change going around us, but we can still be productive. And, this is an opportunity for us to show them how to basically, what's the word I'm looking for? Be balanced in their lives and be flexible and be able to change and adapt to new situations without it totally kind of throwing us.
I think it's an extremely important life skill. We tell our kids all the time, your life is not fair and it's going to be hard. There's going to be, so how do you cope with it and how do you deal with it? So I think being home gives you that opportunity to include kids in your business, include them in your work life. I have some envelopes that need to get mailed out, and now I had to let go my employees for this time period. So my kids help me seal envelopes. Not that I'm putting them to child labor laws or anything like that, but now they get to be a part of it, and you start talking about, well, this is why we have to do this. So it gives you, we always ask for more time with our kids, but it gives us more time to kind of explain why this is the rule in our house. We get to follow through. This is why it's teamwork, because we all have to do it. Instead of just saying, do this, do that, they now get to see the big picture. When you move out, you're going to have to deal with these issues, and we want you to be prepared for it.
As a mum, I'm just interested in how you've kind of explained the current situation to your kids, because how old are your children?
9, 7, and 5.
Yeah, so I have a 9 and an 11-year-old, and I don't want to scare them, but I also want them to be kind of aware of what's happening. How have you approached that subject?
So we have an interesting situation because our 9-year-old listens to NPR every day. So
yeah, my girls do too.
So he hears world issues, and kids are amazing when you are just restating facts. They're not necessarily coming up with their own opinions about it. They just ask realistic questions. So our kids we limit screen time, and we don't even have cable. So the news isn't running. So when they ask what's going on, and especially because we have older family members. We have explained this is why we can't be around them right now. It's going to take this long. We talk to them about why the streets are bare, why a lot of businesses aren't in business right now. So we've been pretty matter of fact about there is a sickness that's going around, and it is extremely serious because of how quickly people can get sick. And we reassure them that, for kids, you guys are healthy and you can probably bounce back for this. And it's just the mere number of people getting sick at the same time that's limiting resources. That's the problem. So we're trying to slow this down and follow rules so that the most people can be the best that they can dealing with this.
Okay. And how are you staying positive about the future? Because your business has been hit right now. We're all kind of having to really readjust. How are you managing to keep in that positive mindset?
It's extremely hard. I will say it's extremely hard. I opened my business 9 months ago, and we're a communal workspace for women, so can't really get together. So really reaching out and figuring out how we can hone in and build community while we can't physically be around each other. So I actually last week created lawn signs, and they say community over COVID. And I passed them out to all of our members so that they could have put them in their lawn signs. Every week, we're asking them with their kids to create, most of our members are mothers, create a little symbol to attach to the yard sign. So when everybody's outside on their walks, they can see one every week. So this week,
that's a great idea.
This week, it's a red heart. So when people are on their walks, they can identify a red heart, and we'll do something different next week. It's extremely hard not being, even our kids in the neighborhood, they see another family and saying, no, you can't, like, stay on the porch while they're on the sidewalk. That's extremely hard to explain to them. But it's amazing seeing the creativity that even the kids are getting. One of my son's friends asked to do a Zoom call with him to trade basketball cards over a Zoom call.
Oh,
Our other
that's so
neighbors
nice.
did a costume contest. They put on costumes on Sunday and walked down the street. And my daughter went inside and put on a costume and then walked down the street in front of their house. So people are getting extremely creative, which is, I think we have to keep being so grateful for those little good deeds in our community that we see. That's really how I'm trying to stay positive, is that although I feel upset, if I can keep positive, at least outwardly, for most people, that maybe that's just enough of what they need for them to start sharing that positivity with other people.
Well, Anna, thank you so much. You've certainly, given me lots of positivity during this conversation. I've got loads of tips for working from home, so thank you so much. I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Claire.
Hopefully we'll be all back to normal soon, but keep healthy. And thank you again for joining me.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anna. Bye.
Bye.